This podcast was recorded on traditional Denizal land.
Hello, it's Trey. Welcome to Before the Peace. Recently, I attended a conference at Northern Lights College titled Reawakening Our Language, a gathering to honor First Peoples language revitalization. Doig River First Nation partnered with the college to host the event on March 14th and 15th to celebrate First Peoples languages and the work gone in to revive them. During the event, I had a chance to speak with 7 people, from organizers to First Nation members to those who were just attending as guests. Since I was able to talk to multiple people, we are going to split this episode into 2 parts. Next part will be put out in April. In this episode, I'll be chatting with Misty Waldorf from MNBC, Rosaline Smith, whose parents helped Doig River First Nation take the beaver language to the written word, Stanley Fraser with the Nawican Friendship Centre, and Michael Calvert, Director of Indigenous Education for Northern Lights College. I asked all the guests mainly the same questions about the events. You will also hear me constantly mentioning where we are at in the conference. Most of the guests in this episode are from day 1, except for Michael Calvert, who I interviewed almost near the end of the second day. Each speaker will mention their name and title before I start asking questions as well, just so you know who is speaking. I mentioned this multiple times in the interviews, but I can't stop saying this because it was so lovely. You felt the positive energy walking into the college while this event was going on. It was really neat, and I hope you enjoy part 1 on the Reawakening Our Language event. Before we get into this episode, make sure you reach out to us with any guest or program ideas by emailing beforethepeace@energeticcity.ca or moosefm.ca. You can also hit us up on social media on Instagram @beforethepeace and beforethepeace_ on X. Also, this podcast wouldn't be possible without the help of Troyer Ventures. Troyer has been serving our community in the energy industry with tank and vac trucks since 2000. They're built on the principles of hard work, service, and community, and they are proud to offer the financial support to make this program possible.
Misty Waldorf with the Métis Nation of BC. I'm the Regional Program Manager for Fort St. John.
So the revitalization event happening at Northern Lights College, we're in the midst of the first day. It's about halfway through. How has it been so far? How's the experience been for you?
Yeah, it's been really exciting, and then there's so many new things, and it honestly just instantly was like, I want to bring my kids here and I want to revitalize the language. The Métis Nation, their language is Michif, and it hasn't really it's not part of it this year. So next year I'm definitely going to get us a part of it and make sure we can learn some more things about them too.
And is that your languages?
So my grandma was from Sturgeon Lake Band, so she was Cree, but my background and my status, I guess, would be the Métis. So it's nothing I know about. I don't know anything about the Métis language, but I'm learning.
So it's something you're hoping that they talk about at future events.
Yeah, well, I'd
That's
like to have a keynote or some kind of speaker next year. I'm definitely gonna push that in there for sure. Yeah,
that's awesome. And so, what is the highlight for you so far?
So far we had Bannock. That was so cool. We had a keynote speaker that was learning, kind of teaching what not to do when you're trying to revitalize the language, like what not to just teach the key words and the numbers, but to actually get the elders involved and have the elders just immerse the kids and the people into that, which I love because we want to get more out and culturally into the community and do some foraging, but to have an elder to teach you those things is really cool. So they're talking about that, and that was really neat.
So for your takeaways from your position with MNBC, kind of how will you use this information that you learn at the event?
Yeah, so we were already talking about maybe doing some cultural events in Fort St. John with the Métis Nation. So I think when we were talking about it, we bring an elder in to welcome us to the land and do that kind of stuff, and then that's kind of all their part is. But I would like to get them to kind of immerse a little bit more into it and use the language and teach us things when we're doing the cultural things and say their words while we're doing it throughout the process. So that's kind of cool.
An event like this for language revitalization, how big is it in your opinion? Not only for Indigenous, but Métis, Inuit, it's huge across the board. For you and your feelings on it.
Yeah. I just keep hearing that language is power. Mm-hmm. So that's just it's power. So that's what I keep hearing, and I think that's huge, and we need to take back our power. And since Truth and Reconciliation, when that all happened, we feel like we have a voice now, and then we're being heard, and I think one step is the language and getting that power back.
I think a lot of times, from my opinion, we talk a lot about First Nations, Indigenous, and there's a lot going on across the country, especially here in Northeast BC. But from the Métis side, I think that's, there's always been stuff going on. But do you think that the power with First Nations and throwing these type of events are then, trickling down to Métis Nation
Yeah, it was making connections too, because I know growing up, being Métis, First Nations were always just a little bit, they weren't welcoming to the Métis people. But an event like this, it's so welcoming. It's such a safe space to be able to speak about your culture and everybody share about it. I feel very safe. In the past, it hasn't been safe talking about Métis because of First Nations. It was just kind of a little bit of a battle, and I think this is making it super safe.
Oh yeah, I think it's just more open. I have a podcast on it, right? It's definitely now more. I hate to say it for lack of a better term, but more. I guess appropriate to talk about it in public. Maybe not appropriate's the right word, but definitely people are more open.
Yeah, being proud too.
Yeah, proud to go out and speak on these certain issues, concerns, and not even that, just topics in general to inform the public, right?
Yeah.
Are you from the Peace region, Misty?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Fort St. John. Yep.
So for you, I guess, speaking for Métis specifically, how has that progressed through Fort St. John? I've definitely heard stories about how it used to be back in the day. I've heard people say, quote unquote, that it was like the Wild Wild West. So from there, you growing up to now, how has it progressed? It seems like it's been tenfold. It seems like it's been a huge progression.
It's been changed so much. And then I honestly, since Tourism Reconciliation, that's changed my whole dynamic. But mine started when I was in school. I wasn't, First Nations enough, and I wasn't white enough, so I was Métis. So I just kind of went with the colonization, and I was very colonized, and I went that route. So now, taking back my heritage and jumping right in, being Métis Nation when I got the job there, I was like, this is where it's supposed to be. This is where it's meant to be. And supposed to the Métis people and make them proud of it, and just jump right in. So I'm taking back my culture and learning about it, and my dad is so proud. He's always wanted me to learn about it and stuff. So yeah, it's very exciting.
That's awesome. So you didn't really start learning about your culture until you got with...
No, I stayed away from it because it was almost like you were supposed to be ashamed of it. And I think that's what it was done was they were taught you to be almost ashamed of it so that you would be colonized more. And I always said to somebody, I was like, this is where I think they almost got us. And then Tourism Reconciliation happened, and I was like, you know what? We have a voice now, and I want to be a part of that voice. And it's like, nope, got me right out of there. And it's like, no, I'm going to be proud of it now. Yeah.
And everyone's fighting to speak and speak out and be advocates. This kind of leads into my next question. So myself, I'm Métis as well, but I'm visibly non-Indigenous. For the people out there that are non-Indigenous, do you have any words for them about how they can get into learning more about language, learning more about culture in general, so that they can become advocates?
Yeah. So there's chartered communities. So I know for the Métis Nation, we have chartered communities. We have 40 chartered communities in BC. So there's always a chartered community in your area. So go to your chartered community, just walk in and say hello. They're always welcoming. Just be part of the little events that they have. Follow their Facebook pages. There's always Facebook pages. Our Fort St. John Métis Society, they're run by a bunch of wonderful people, and they have events called constantly doing beading or cooking lessons and stuff like that. So that's the first way to get into the door for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, there's tons of resources out there, and just having conversations, right? Being open-minded and learning, right? That's the biggest thing I've had and been able to experience with this podcast is being, just open conversations and being able to learn, and it's definitely been huge going forward. So one of my last questions here, Misty, for MNBC, you have the platform. What do you guys got going on right now? Is there anything you have planned for this year, or anything huge for you guys? Yeah,
so since I've been there, I've started in November, so I'm just new there. We want to do a lot of, they're called open cohorts and that kind of a thing. So coming up in May, we do have, it's pre-beginners, computers. So it's a cohort that's open to any Métis MNBC card holder. If you come in, we can get you into it, and you can just learn about computers and that kind of thing. That's what we have coming up specifically here. We also, right now, for funding for people that are MNBC card holders, the applications opened up in February. And this is something I wanted to educate everybody on as well in the area. Applications open up in February. Funds get released in April. So we need everybody for funding for schooling. So we do fund people for schooling that have the card holders are also BC residents, up to $12,000 a year, for a max of $50,000 for their lifetime. You just have to get in at the right time. Like a lot of times I hear people being like, "Oh, I applied in August and I didn't get funded." Well, by that time our funds are kind of depleted. So I just wanted to educate everybody. Like, come in February, get your application in. You just have to have an acceptance letter and your card for MNBC, and then April it gets released. We can fund you. I want to turn Fort St. John, this region, around from, we funded 130 people last year. I want it to be 260 for sure. I want to get up to 500. I want to educate people on when to get it done so we can get it done. Get everybody educated.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that knowledge that you have, Misty. And you said your son's going to be coming with you tomorrow. Like I said, we're halfway during the day. The event's not done. It's a 2-day event. March 14th, 15th. I guess now looking ahead, I kind of asked you how it's been the past half day. What are you looking forward to over the next day and a half?
I don't know. There's just so many different people that I want to go see. But every time I see culture in the kind of like what they're going to be talking about, culture is what I'm really excited about. I love like the learning about all the culture and that kind of thing. So I'm excited to bring my son. He's 17 years old. He's half Jamaican, half Métis. So he's got a lot of different cultures. But I want to teach him about our cultures for sure.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Did you buy anything from the vendors? You see all the I came in. I'm
so
like,
many.
oh my gosh,
the
man.
beading is just amazing. I want to get some necklaces and some earrings. Yeah.
I was like, no, but then I'm like, oh no, payday's tomorrow. I might get a little,
sure.
crazy with my spending. Well, thank you so much, Misty, for chatting with us. I know this was a quick conversation, but hopefully I get to chat with you again in the future, and we can, kind of have a longer conversation. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Thank you so much for having me.
My name is Rosaline Smith, and I am the Indigenous Counselor at North Peace.
And so, Rosaline, where are you from? The Peace region?
I am from Fort St. John. I'm a lifer.
So, Madeline Oker, you were one of the couple people that here at the Language Revitalization event at Northern Lights College was just pointed at and told me to talk to. And the brief little description she gave me was that you and your family have a relation to the Beaver people and Beaver language, just I guess through a working relationship. If you could kind of delve into that, and how that's gone.
Okay, my parents are linguists. They came over in 1961 from England, and they moved to Doig, lived and worked with the Beaver people to learn their language, to preserve it and write it. They created the alphabet and wrote the orthography, which we can just read here. It's when an alphabet is adopted or developed to represent a given language, an orthography generally comes into being. So that's the rules of the spelling and the words. The Beaver language has 58 letters in their alphabet. They're missing some letters that we have, and they have combinations of other letters that we don't have that have different sounds, and it's tonal as well. So my parents lived at Doig in a little shack and learnt the language, wrote the language. They also developed teaching tools and school primers and were actively teaching it through Upper Pine School at the time. That was in the 70s. So their whole life was spent learning and writing, developing, and then teaching the Beaver language so that it wouldn't disappear.
Which is absolutely vital looking at the work they're doing at now, right? Like, not that it was a template, because obviously the Beaver people were speaking the language, but it had helped them get to the point where they are now, I would assume, kind of over the years through the research and the team that they have at Doig. That was definitely a good base, would you say?
Yeah, when they came in the 60s, Beaver was an oral language.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took them years just with an oil lamp and pencils, trying to figure out this sound, that sound, repeating, learning that there's, 4 different ways to say goodbye. The way you learn that is that one time one guy says goodbye one way, one time 2 or 3 people say goodbye another way. And it's like, okay, so you say goodbye differently depending on if there's one person saying goodbye to one person, or one person saying goodbye to two people, or two or more people saying goodbye to one person. Like
Wow.
it takes a long time,
Yeah.
a lifetime.
Yeah, so I was going to say, did your parents, you said they worked their whole life working on the language? Oh, wow. And so for you, growing up, did you have contact, engagement with Doig River First Nation as well? Like, or was it later on in life? How does that work for you?
Yeah,
Did you live in the shack with them? Like,
I lived in the shack with
that's
them.
what I was going to say.
I was 6 before I realized I was white. I didn't know any difference. Like, we just lived at Doig when we first went out there. I mean, my parents were in Fort St. John when it was dirt roads and wooden sidewalks, and there wasn't very good access out to Doig in the 60s, right? And it was bush life, right? I was raised on moose meat and bannock, and it's been great, which is why my life has sort of gone the way it went. And
that's what I was going to ask you. So is really starting young, being in Doig River First Nation and just growing up in the nation. Like, well, I guess first of all, when did you guys move into Fort St. John?
we moved to Goodlow.
Oh, okay, Goodlow.
From Doig, and then eventually into Charlie Lake area.
And so how many years did you guys live in Doig for?
We always maintained a little shack out there.
Okay.
And there was, the Doig people originally were semi-nomadic, and so they had summer camps in different places that, they still go to. And we were just part of life. I mean, for me, it was the best childhood ever, but a little bit complicated because I was raised by British parents on an Indigenous reserve in a Canadian culture. So they speak beaver with an English accent.
How was the reception? I mean, just with Madeline points and you out, honestly, obviously there's a strong connection with your family and people at Doig. How has, throughout your life, how has the connection been? Like, have you been in constant contact with them, you and your family as well?
Yes.
Yeah. And just kind of, you said, that led to your life work with you at the high school. Kind of give me, I guess, the Coles notes of how that journey kind of went into where you're at right now.
Well, in university, I went through intercultural education, and when I came back as a teacher in the early 90s, I did Native education through Upper Pine, worked with Doig alongside with Darlene and, Maggie Davis, people who were at the time there. And we started Doig Days, and just thought that, I had that experience growing up, a day in the life of Indigenous people. This is their experience, trying to eradicate racism and judgment and just things that even in Upper Pine, it was very different and difficult at that time. I just wanted people to experience and understand, because the closer you get to something that you're maybe unsure of or afraid of that causes racism, the more you understand it, then that sort of dissipates all of the fear and the anxiety that causes the separation.
I know I kind of caught you right when you guys came into the event, you and your daughter. But and then you guys were invited as well. Is there, anything you're kind of looking forward to with the event? Just maybe meeting up with people, talking to or listening to some of the keynote speaks. Kind of, what are you hoping to take out of the event? Or are you just here to see how everything's going and meet up with everyone?
Yeah, for me, it's like a continuation of the life and the evolution of the language. It started as oral, and then it was written down, and then it was taught, but it still has a long ways to go. But for me, the exciting thing is Amy Acko being one of the main kingpins here. I taught her in kindergarten. So it's the next generation that's carrying this on, and the more we can get behind and support and encourage them to carry on and learn and continue, because the speakers are the elders, and there are fewer and fewer of them. So we need the next generation to build on this and to grow with it and to be as enthusiastic as Amy and have that energy.
Yeah, and events like this will be vital for the future, especially all the work that Amy and everyone else put in.
For sure.
I went and talked to her, and she was saying she's off like 3 Red Bulls and no sleep. Like she's been working very hard to get this event going. Have you, through your life, have you ever been able to kind of step back and look at your life and the connection you've been able to build, you and your family, with Indigenous people here in Northeast BC? Because again, just hearing your story for the first time, I'm very fascinated, and you can tell you're very passionate, and it's a big part of your life. Have you been able to look at that, and how does it feel to see, again, talking about Amy, you taught her and you saw her grow up to see where she's at now and the things that she's doing at Doig? There must be also a special feeling for you to see that as well, right?
Absolutely. Like I couldn't be more proud. Like it's so encouraging, and it is the evolution of how things go. Personally, I remember taking my small children into the police station and showing the sign, whatever hangs in the police station, being in English and in French and in beaver, and saying to my own children, that could not have happened without your grandparents. That is why that is there. And yeah, I don't know how to express those emotions.
I do too. I'm about to cry. No one's kidding. For those that are non-Indigenous, what would you say to them for what they can do to become an advocate? Like, what can they do to help out, to whether it be to keep the language alive or culture? Like, is it open conversations? Is it learning, researching? What do you suggest to them?
That's a deep question. I think personally, I'm blonde, blue-eyed, white as they can come, but I have friends, and the relationship is the connection. The beaver that I learned, that's precious, and that is also connection. The education that I had was education, helpful, but not a connection. The connection comes with the people. The connection with the people comes with making a friend, being supportive, taking away the colonialism, and joining in alongside and becoming part of. And I think that was the blessing of my childhood and my life, was being part of the connection, the growth, the evolution, the change, the generations, and seeing it unfold, and like raising your own kids, watching them fly, right? And yeah, so there come the tears again, right?
Well, we'll stop it there. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know you had nothing, you didn't know anything about it, you didn't know who I was, and you came in, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Trey.
Stanley Fraser. I'm the cultural advisor for the Nawican Friendship Centre in Dawson.
Are you a member of a nation in Northeast BC, or?
No, I'm a member. I come from northern Saskatchewan, a Takakoop band. And
so what brought you to the Peace region?
Work. I come to work in Chetwynd. I work for the highways for 18 years, and then I retired, and then I got on with the Friendship Centre in Dawson Creek, and here I am today.
And what's some of the work that you do at the Nawican Friendship Centre?
We teach. I try to teach the back to the basics: how to tan moose hides, how to dry meat, how to make drums, drumming, dream catchers, all these things. I go into the schools in District 59. I also talk about the Indigenous culture and the things that are important, like today, the language. I'm one of them that has lost my language a long time ago, And yeah, I can see the very vital importance of our language and how it represents a part of our culture at a more in-depth rather than what the English language does.
So today at the language revitalization events, are you just coming as a guest, or are you a speaker? How are you involved with the event?
I'm coming as a guest. I've been involved with the college in Dawson and here from time to time. So yeah, I'm just coming in as a guest.
So coming out of the event, I know we're just only halfway through the first day. Kind of what are you looking to take away from it? My assumption is with your work with Nawican and what you're doing with, really trying to bring in the culture and talk to them about language and everything so that it keeps on going moving forward. I'm assuming that's part of what you're going to take this knowledge you learned today and bring it back to the Friendship Center, maybe try and incorporate it with your work. But is there anything else, or am I wrong there?
No, absolutely. And it's something that we're already trying, and it's nice to know at the scale of what is happening here now, because we're doing simple things as a word per week in Cree. So it just, and like Tuesday and the month of the year, how to say those in Cree.
And just going off to you mentioning about your language and how that has been lost. What's specifically the language you're speaking of, and is there work being done put into revitalizing your language?
Cree is my
Cree, okay.
Is my official language from Saskatchewan. There's steps similar to what is happening here, of where you can actually take Cree lessons in that at the school level now.
Why do you think events like this are so important for revitalizing language, culture, just history, everything within Indigenous, Métis, Inuit? Like, why are these events so important and vital?
One of the biggest things is that we learn something from everybody. And one of the biggest things that I find is gathering on a positive note to learn, to celebrate, to come together as a community, even though sometimes we're miles apart, to be able to come together and to be able to understand one another and respect one another of the territory we're in.
What would you like to see moving forward to keep, the culture, language across the board for across the whole country, all the First Nations, all the languages? What do you think should be done across the board? I'm guessing events like this is something that can continue, but then this happens. What needs to be done afterwards to keep it going?
Well, I think it's up to the people that learn something to learn from how it started, because if you take the Indigenous language across Canada, there is so many of them, but if we could break it down to, say, the different bands, because from one band to another, the dialects could vary a little bit, but if we can get that happening within our own band, even within our community, you take like Chetwynd, because we got a vast amount of Indigenous people there, and to be able just to understand somebody, even if they say something in their language, you're able to acknowledge what they're saying.
How much does Nawican have in terms of communication with all the First Nations in Northeast BC? I'm assuming you're talking with them quite often.
No,
Okay.
we're that's a process that's happening now.
Okay.
Before, it was more or less just up to Dawson within that community. But I'm here to try and reach out to all communities, First Nation, Fort St. John, all different kinds of communities, different cultures, for us to come together as a community in the Northwest.
How has that been so far today? I mean, as soon as I walked in, the vibe, it was just friendly. Everyone's talking, people I know, people I don't know. It was just wonderful. How has that been for you so far, building those relationships today?
Well, it's been fantastic, because I met a couple here that I met in Helford Hides in Edmonton, Alberta. Over 2 months ago, and I meet him here again, and it's like, hi.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Like, it's just like, oh my goodness, it's a small world. Yeah, okay.
Well, it's even, I was talking with Madeline Oker. I just did a podcast with her a couple weeks ago. And I was talking with her, and then, yeah, she pawned you off on me, which is awesome. But, that's just kind of the environment we have going on at the event. I love it. Moving over to kind of a little bit of a more serious question, and it's just on your opinion and your feelings on this. And going off of me asking how we move forward to keep culture, language alive, is the province doing enough? Do you believe, in your opinion?
No. No, because it's one of the things that we need to get into our schools at a very young age. It's something that we have to start teaching at the grade 1 level or even sooner at kindergarten.
Is there anything else that they need to be doing?
Well, one of the biggest things is probably funding because when it comes down to language, there's so many of them that it takes a lot to learn a lot. But we have to go almost community by community, and that's where I think the biggest problem lies.
Just for me, thinking of Doig, and pretty much just because I have the most knowledge on Doig, just with my relationship with them, is they've speaking of Madeline, the language specialist at Doig, she's worked since, I believe, the late 90s, if not even earlier, right? And it's still going on to this day. Like, she's still working every single day, a bunch of inquiries, transcriptions, really trying to just focus on the language. But I think as a whole, you're saying, yeah, we're looking at so many First Nations, so many communities across the country. There's a lot of money and work that has to be done, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Doig has a good blueprint, at least here for Northeast BC moving forward? Because Doig, Blueberry, all these First Nations do have some sort of relationship. So do you think, by throwing an event like this and really shining the awareness, this is just going to boost the morale and hopefully help other First Nations in Northeast BC as well? Well,
I'm hoping that is the absolutely end result, but the one of the biggest things is to keep it going. Like, Doig has done a tremendous job of getting this thing together, getting different nations together of all walks of life, really, and they've done a job I think a lot of us can take home and we can start building from it.
What has been your highlight so far at the event? I know it's only been half a day.
I guess it was the presentation of how the one Salish people started to bring back their language, and it started from, I think, where all great ideas start from, and that's at the kitchen table. And I think that's where it started from, be able to talk to your kids rather than depend on an education system or somebody else to do that. We have to do that ourselves.
And that's what Madeline was saying as well, and just something she was taught when she was younger from her grandmother is English is her second language because she kept speaking it, right? So, is there anything else you're looking forward to, again, half day, anything you're looking forward to for the rest of the day today or tomorrow at the event?
No, I'm just here to learn. Like I'm here to
take it,
take it all in and take the good and see if where we can go with it.
That's so awesome, Stan. My last question for you here, for the Nawican Friendship Centre. Anything you guys got going on? You have the platform. Anything you guys got going on this year?
Right now we're in the plans of developing a cultural grounds where we're going to be able to tan our own hides, be able to do spiritual events, be able to dry meat and stuff like that right on the grounds in Dawson.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me, Stan. I appreciate it.
Michael Calvert, and I am Director of Indigenous Education at NLC.
Awesome. And you were a big part of organizing the event here with Doig, in partnership with Doig River First Nation, the Language Revitalization event. What went into the organizing? How long did it take? And kind of what were the hurdles, the ups and downs of this process?
Yes, it was an amazing experience altogether. We came up with this idea in early January, I believe it was, and initially I was thinking we could pull this off in 6 months, in midsummer or something like that, and just talking with community and with Doig, and there, we got to watch out for fire season, and so if we're going to pull this off, it's going to have to be earlier, right, in March. And I'm like, okay, that's not a lot of time
Yeah.
to pull off an event like this, but we both had good teams. Doig's got an amazing cultural heritage and language department, and I work with a great group of people in the Indigenous Education department here at NLC, and together we just we pulled it all together, and like you say, overcame all of those hurdles. I think space is probably one of the big ones. When we first imagined this, at least for myself, I was thinking 50, 60 people, talking about language in a room, and that would be great. And so when registration started rolling in, and we very quickly came to realize that we were probably talking more like a couple of hundred people. That
I was going to say, which I've seen is definitely coming in and out. Hundreds of people for sure.
Yeah. So it's been amazing, and to have that response from communities, and it just speaks to the need to address the revitalization of language now, not later on. And so we need to, as communities, as community partners, to enact this and get it going. And so it was just a great experience. We did struggle with a few hurdles, just primarily, the time crunch, because we all wanted to get it done, and our departments are both, at capacity. We're working on a lot of different projects, and to throw something of this size on top, I think was demanding for Doig's team and for our team. But again, we just this is something everyone involved was incredibly passionate about, and that really played out in how much effort everybody put into putting this together.
Well, we talk about the hurdles, then going off of that, we're a couple hours till the event is done, the 2-day event. I've been saying to everyone that when I've come in here, I haven't been here for the full 2 days, but every time I've come in here, just the atmosphere is just so positive. Everyone's smiling, everyone's talking. I've had, elders and just Doig River First Nation members, just people I know pointing out guests for me. It's just been a great experience for me as well. So thinking about all that hard work, on top of you being new to the region, which this is probably a crash course for you on everything going on here in the region for sure. But all that compiled to now, a couple hours left, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling very joyful, very grateful. A similar experience to you, where you see the smiles on people's face. You see people who haven't seen each other in a long time, getting that opportunity to reconnect and to talk about language, about culture, just about like how we're going to do this work moving forward. And ideally for me, it's about reigniting or igniting that spark for others to, again, take that urgency into the language. We all know, everyone here knows the urgency, but it's then taking that action. And maybe it's just that one spark you need, that one, piece of confidence that we can do this, that, we're seeing it demonstrated by others. And so yes, we can do this as well. And if people from communities, members from communities leave with that thought in their head, and that action's going to happen, that's incredibly valuable, and I'm incredibly grateful for that if that takes place.
Outside of that, what is another vital part, do you think, coming out of this event? Like, why is it so important? And also, why is it important for what's ahead? Like, I'm assuming that you guys are going to want to run this annually, just given the response, the atmosphere. I'm sure it's going to grow from here. Kind of what are your thoughts on those right now? Double questions there, but yeah, the importance of the event, what is it for you, and kind of what are the plans moving forward?
Absolutely. So I can just say that, this is, I said in my opening speech that, we planted the seed just with Doig saying, hey, let's do this. We're now here. We've come to this event. We're all celebrating this. We've seen this grow into a little seedling of what we're doing. And so now what we want to see is we want to see this flower. We want to see it flower annually, once a year, and just coming together to celebrate the revitalization of language.
And as we wind down here, get this done quick, Mike, because I know you got to be on stage right away. I know we're going to do a full episode with you here in the coming weeks. But my last question, there's not just members from Doig, members from Blueberry River, members from other First Nations in Northeast BC. There's non-Indigenous folks coming in here as well. There's Métis, all walks of life. But specifically for non-Indigenous individuals looking at getting into the language, the culture, to be an ally, what do you suggest they do moving forward? Whether it be Indigenous, again, Métis, Inuit, what should they be doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can speak at it from an educational lens, at least, and from an institutional lens, and that's, what is our role as an institution in supporting communities in language revitalization, and it is still a question. It's, for us, it's like, what do communities need from us? What role do we play as an institution? How can we support this? There are communities who want to keep it at home, and that's perfectly fine. But is there an opportunity for us to support in any way? And and that would include Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, academics, administrators coming together to find ways to support language courses, culture courses, these sorts of things, and get them into the curriculum if that's one of the pieces that communities see that there's a need for.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike. And again, we'll talk to you again in the coming weeks and get some more background on you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Trent.
Before I let you go, again, make sure you reach out to us with any guest or program ideas by emailing beforethepeace@energeticcity.ca or moosefm.ca. You can also hit us up on Instagram at beforethepeace or beforethepeace_ on X, formerly known as Twitter.